welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Estee, and on my channel we discuss everything in the beauty world and sometimes some other things. So if that interests you, be sure to subscribe. And for today's video, we are doing something very exciting. We are doing my first ever Foundation Friday, and for today's foundation we are trying out the brand new and improved Huda Beauty Faux Filter Foundation. Before I get into telling you a little bit about this foundation, I do want to highlight that this is my first Foundation Friday, and I think what I'm going to do is do a Foundation Friday at least 2 to 3 times a month. And I thought that the Huda Beauty Faux Filter Foundation would just be the perfect first one to do, because this is actually the foundation that I wore on my wedding day. Now, my wedding was a little over 2 years ago, and I actually have not touched this foundation since because of the fragrance. So the original formulation had a ton of fragrance. It was specifically a rose scent, and that fragrance did not go well with my skin, and it basically broke me out into like an allergic reaction. But what I think is so just cool and awesome and innovative is that Huda and her team took everyone's criticisms of the original foundation and reformulated. So let me tell you what's new about this foundation. And I'm just reading this off of their Instagram. So this new formula is now fragrance-free, non-comedogenic, non-drying, waterproof, 24-hour wear. We will be testing this out for a full 10 hours. Mask/transfer proof, which is obviously huge in this day and age. Luminous matte finish, still vegan friendly and available in 39 shades. So I think the major difference they did with this is that they took out the fragrance, and I think they tried to sort of market it as this luminous matte foundation and make it not as drying, because people complained that the original formula was kind of dry and cakey. So we will be testing this out for a full 10 hours. I will be doing 2 check-ins at the 5-hour mark and then the final check-in at the 10-hour mark. So if you want to see how this foundation applies and wear on the skin, then let's get right on into the demo. We are going to go straight in with the foundation. I do want to mention that the first time I use a foundation or test out a foundation, I do not use any primer. I do that because I really want to test how the foundation wears all on its own and how it performs on its own. So we're going in, I'm using the color Shortbread, which is 200B. I know that this is a very full coverage foundation, so we're going to start with 1 pump. On this side of my face, I am going to apply it with my sponge. This is my Shop Miss A sponge. And then on this side of my face, I am going to apply it with this flat top Kabuki. This is the Morphe Y6. I just zoomed you all in a little bit. What I'm going to do now is just warm up the foundation a little bit, because this foundation is more of like a cream consistency. It's a little thick. I do just want to warm it up on the back of my hand. I'll tell you a little bit about my skin type. So my skin type is very combination. My T-zone gets very oily. The rest of my face is pretty normal. And then my chin is as dry as the Sahara Desert. So I literally have pretty much every skin type happening on my face. And I also suffer from acne, as you can see, lots of hyperpigmentation, or like post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation from the acne. And then I also have perioral dermatitis. So whatever it is, I got it. So I feel like I always joke and say I'm like the best person to test out foundations, because I have everything going on. Let's start blending this out. I know this foundation sets quickly, so I do want to get a move on over here. Yeah, this sets super fast. I'm like worried that I'm not going to be able to blend this out in time. Here is 1 layer of the foundation blended in with my sponge. It's looking good, but I will say that it's looking slightly dry around my nose and a little bit dry around my chin. So I will say that, but let's do this side and see how it looks with the brush. I'm gonna take 1 more pump, and I'm also going to warm this up, but I think I'm gonna work more in sections with the brush since this sets down so fast. I'm just going to start buffing this in. Yeah, I definitely say work in sections with this. I know that one of the things that they like change about this foundation is that it was supposed to be a little bit more hydrating. I don't know about that yet, but we'll see. The last time I wore this foundation, the regular foundation before they reformulated, it was on my wedding day, and that was like over 2 years ago, so I don't really remember it setting down this fast, but I also technically didn't do my own makeup on my wedding, so I should say that. But I did used to use that foundation like during that time. Here is 1 layer of the foundation on the brush side. I definitely need to add some on my nose. I kind of neglected my nose a little bit. As far as the brush versus the sponge, I definitely think you get more coverage with the brush, but I do notice that the side that I did do the brush on, it looks heavy. It definitely looks heavier than the sponge side, and it looks a little bit more cakey. I just feel like because this foundation is quite matte, because it sets down so fast, I feel like using a sponge is almost a little bit better, because I do feel like the sponge almost thins it out a little bit. I did mention not using a primer, but if you have dry skin, I highly recommend going in with a very, very hydrating, dewy primer. I think that would help a lot in this situation. I will say that for my moisturizer today, I did use the Bobbi Brown Face Base, which is technically sold as a primer. So I think if you have like normal to oily skin, you should just be fine with like a good moisturizer. But if you are on the drier side or you have any dry patches, definitely go in with something very moisturizing. The brush side really gave me like the fullest coverage, but I feel like my blemishes are kind of peeking through over here just a little bit. So I'm just gonna take whatever is left on my sponge and just add a little bit more. And I wanna see, you know, how this foundation builds on itself. All right, that was like pretty seamless. I feel like the foundation definitely built on itself super easily, super well. Here is how the foundation is looking. I'm not going to add any more. I feel like it looks good. Nothing is peeking through. None of my blemishes or my hyperpigmentation is peeking through. It's definitely full coverage. That being said, my initial first impressions is that it looks heavy on the skin. I just feel that this is not a foundation that like sinks into the skin and looks like your skin, but better, like not at all. I just want to highlight that it's not like a lightweight type of full coverage foundation like the Born This Way matte, for example, that kind of just like sinks into the skin and works with your skin and kind of heats up to your skin. This definitely is sitting on top of my skin. I will say that it's looking a little cakey on my dry areas. It's not necessarily emphasizing the dryness. I just think that because it's a drier area, you can kind of see the foundation sitting more on top of that area, if that makes sense. I will say that although it set down quickly and that it's definitely a more matte finish, my skin is not feeling dry at all. Even my chin and my dry areas, it's not feeling dry, it's not feeling tight. So that's a really good sign to me. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and finish up the rest of my face, and then I'll come back and let you know how all of the other products I used worked with this foundation and applied with this foundation, so on and so forth. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, so here is the final look. Before I get into the other products that I used to make this look, I do want to mention that I think that this is one of those foundations that looks beautiful on camera, like I see it on camera in the viewfinder. Wore it on my wedding. It looks beautiful on camera. It looks beautiful in pictures. But in person, it definitely looks heavy. It definitely looks like how, you know, like Estee Lauder Double Wear looks in person. It's a full coverage matte foundation. It's a heavy foundation. It is not a lightweight foundation by any means. So I do kind of want to highlight that. Obviously, with the rest of my makeup done, it's looking really, really beautiful. It just makes a really beautiful canvas for your makeup. It kind of like cancels out everything you have going on because it's so full coverage. That being said, I do want to mention that my chin and around my nose, basically my areas where I am dry, it's not looking too hot. Once it kind of settled into the skin a little bit more, it definitely became a little bit more cakey around my chin, a little bit more cakey than it was already. It's kind of accentuating my dryness just a little bit. And I do want to mention that I did put bronzer on my forehead, of course, but before I went in with the bronzer, when I was like looking into my mirror very up close, I can definitely see that it's settled into my forehead lines a little bit. That being said, it didn't really settle or accentuate my pores at all. So it's really looking nice and airbrushed over here where I have my big pores, but where I have my wrinkles and where I have my dryness, it is being accentuated. And I think that is something that could be prevented with a really good hydrating primer. The first time I ever wear a foundation, I just want to test it out to see how it is on its own. So the next time I wear this, I do want to try it with a really nice and hydrating primer. I think that would kind of definitely help my chin and maybe like a smoothing primer for my forehead. But now let me tell you all the other things that I used. I did go ahead and set my makeup with the Patrick Top Major Glow Dewy Milk Mist. Listen, I needed this, like my chin needed this. I do think that this definitely helped melt the foundation and hydrate the foundation a little bit more. Because this is a Huda foundation, I kind of wanted to like use my other Huda products. So I used my Huda Tantour in the shade Light. This is like literally my holy grail. That's what I use to bronze. On my lips, I am wearing Girls Trip. I absolutely love this shade. I love these lipstick formulations. They're amazing. And then on my eyes, I'm using the Matte and Metal liquid shadows in Cashmere Robe and Penthouse Suite. I used both of them on my eyes today. Her other products, like the other products I have from Huda, I absolutely love. I feel like Huda just really kills it with that full glam type of look. They're not a brand that's like Glossier where it's like your skin but better, like very cool girl. They're not like that, and that's why I love Huda. They're very like full coverage, special occasion, special event type of makeup, which I love. And then the other things I used the e.l.f. Putty Blush in the shade Bora Bora on my cheeks. I've been loving this. I went in with my trusted Dior Backstage palette to highlight, and then on my lashes, I'm wearing the Essence 24-Hour Defined Volume Mascara, which has definitely become my new obsession. So as far as how everything layered on top, I will say that with the bronzer, the cream bronzer, it definitely was a little bit difficult because my skin was like so matte and so set down. It just made that cream bronzer a little bit more difficult to blend out. I needed to use a little bit more effort than I usually do. But that being said, the blush blended out really seamlessly. Also, the e.l.f. blush is just a thinner formula compared to the Huda Beauty Tantour. This is just more of like a thicker cream, and this one is just much more thin. So I did want to highlight that. So that being said, I will see you all in the 5-hour check-in. We are back for our 5-hour check-in. Before we get into the foundation, I quickly just want to give another shout out to this lipstick. I feel like I've spoken about this before, but I love this lipstick. I've been wearing it for the 5 hours. I had breakfast, I had lunch, I had snacks, I was drinking, and I just like that when this fades, it almost leaves like a stain on the lips, like yeah, nothing comes off of my finger because it's like faded, but it kind of leaves like a stain, which I really like. Okay, now let's get into the foundation. So overall as a whole, I think the foundation, it's looking okay. It's not looking great, but it's looking okay. But let me zoom you all in. Okay, here we are, very up close and personal. I'm getting quite oily on my forehead. I'm getting quite oily on my nose. And it doesn't just look shiny because of like the lights I have on me. It does look shiny, a little bit oily in person. So on my nose right here, as you can clearly see. And then also kind of weird, I'm getting a little oily on my chin right here, which doesn't usually happen to me. But I did want to zoom you all in right over here. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but where I'm having an active breakout, the foundation is kind of separating a little bit and kind of just becoming cakey in that area. Overall, it's okay. It's looking pretty nice. I do stand by my statement earlier that this is a foundation that looks really, really nice on camera. Like I feel like I'm looking at it through the viewfinder and it's looking much better on camera than it's looking in person. Obviously, maybe when I edit, it will not be the case, but I don't know. It's still looking really, really nice on camera. And I was taking some selfies with my phone before and it was looking really, really nice, but in person, it's definitely a little heavy. My oils are coming out. It's getting a little cakey over here. But that being said, I'm not going to blot it. I'm not going to add any powder or anything like that because I really want to see how this will hold up and wear up until the 10-hour mark. So that being said, I will see you in another 5 hours. All right, we are back for the 10-hour check-in. It's been a very long day. I am ready to put on my pajamas, take a shower, and get to bed. But obviously before I do that, I have to let you know how the foundation is doing. So let me zoom you all in. All right, we are up close and personal. My forehead is an oily mess. My nose is an oily mess, and right over here. So basically my entire T-zone is an oily mess. And then if we look into my dry areas right over here, right over here. So basically my dry areas, anywhere that I have any active breakouts, are completely dry and totally breaking up. For being a matte foundation and also just a foundation that's set down so quickly, I actually am like really shocked how oily my skin is looking. Now I did use that Patrick Ta setting mist, but I literally only used it on my chin in my dry areas. I did not use it like all over my face at all. So that being said, I'm actually very surprised how oily I am right now. Like I'm pretty much an oily mess. I'm actually very surprised by that. And even though I'm looking very shiny and my dry areas are kind of broken up, I still do think it is a long wearing foundation, because although it is breaking up, it's not transferring or anything like that. Like, I feel like a lot of foundations start to either A, like seep into your skin and then you're like missing foundation, or B, they just start transferring and rubbing off and they kind of just become more like slidey and slippery. So I definitely think that if you are on the dry side, I would stay away from this. If you have any active breakouts, I would probably stay away from this as well, just because it is breaking up around those breakouts and it's almost accentuating those breakouts more. But I do think that if you are normal to oily skin, you will like this. Obviously, you can see I have a lot of shine coming out, but if you just went in with a blotting sheet or some setting powder, that can easily be avoided. Those are basically my pros and cons of this foundation. I'm really happy that Huda decided to take out the fragrance. I do suffer from perioral dermatitis, and fragrance tends to trigger that. And my skin, my perioral dermatitis, it's not irritated, it's not itchy or anything like that. So that's a huge plus. Overall, is it my favorite foundation? No. Would I wear this on a day-to-day? No. I personally think that if you are looking for a really great full coverage foundation that has a soft matte finish, you should go with the Too Faced Born This Way matte foundation. And then if you're looking for something that's in the drugstore world, I highly recommend the L'Oreal Fresh Wear. That one's more medium, but it can be easily built up and it'll give you that same type of soft matte / natural matte type of finish. And with that said, that is it for today's video. Please let me know if you like this by giving this video a thumbs up. It really helps a small creator like me with the YouTube algorithm. And if you like these types of videos / Foundation Fridays, please let me know down below in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!